Are we doing this?
No, we're not, because I forgot to. I'm not. Well, we're still doing it. All right, here we go.
There we
Today's
go. That's
podcast is brought to you by Security Unlocked, Microsoft's new podcast. You can find more information in the description below or go to aka.ms/security unlocked. We're not editing that. We're doing it live.
I was going to say, sorry. It's a whiteout. That's what I'm going to be seeing all day tomorrow, actually starting today.
It did start. We got like sleet here. So my kid woke up just sorely disappointed because Siri said there was a snowflake and she's like, that's not
drive
snow.
east because it's all coming here. I'm going to revise my expectation, no, my need for the next 24 hours, which is it's been going up and down, the snow totals, because, nobody has any idea what's going to happen, obviously. I think I would prefer for it to be more snow than less. The rationale there being that if it's more snow, it has to be light, fluffy snow, because that's the only way it can pile up.
Yeah, because
What's going to happen is sleet's going to come in on the end of it. It's going to be ice. The power's going to go out. I don't need this, Brad.
It's the end of Paul Threat. It's going to be the greatest day of my life.
My family's going to be like eating out of my body like I'm that Tauntaun thing in Empire Strikes Back in the beginning. And he's like, I thought they smelled bad on the outside. Yep, that's how I end, Brad, as food.
I mean, realistically, we all end as carbon anyways, so what's the...
Sure. I know, but there's something personal about your family being the ones eating you, right?
If you wonder where we're at in the 2020 trough, we're pretty close to the Mariana Trench, I think, at this point.
Oh, boy. Anywho.
Did you see what Facebook bought?
Oh, bought? No.
On the New York Times?
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm actually just prepping the beginning of that story.
Yeah, so for those who haven't heard or whatever, seen or whatever, why would you? New York Times bought a full-page ad because Apple...
Oh, not just the New York Times, by the way, sorry.
Oh,
also,
was it more
Wall Street
than that?
Journal, Washington Post. Yeah, probably the LA Times.
Very, very courageous of them. Facebook put out a full-page ad saying that they are the Goliath that is going to fight Apple, or the David, I should say, in that scenario. They are the David who's going to fight the Goliath. It's like Goliath versus Goliath. Anyways, that they are the protector of small businesses, Paul.
That's right.
That's right. Facebook, the company that ruined advertising for a lot of things, probably ended a couple marriages, split up many families. They
subverted our democracy.
Yes,
let's not forget that.
They are the ones who are going to save small businesses. Because Apple pushed out their update yesterday that they call it like the nutrition label or whatever, that when you download an app or are about to download an app, it tells you like all the piracy related stuff. Conveniently leaves out Apple stuff, like messages and mail and Safari and other things. But Facebook is angry because they collect a lot of your data and they hawk it around like it's free because it kind of is. And they're going to save us all, Paul.
Yeah, thank God for Facebook. I think we've all said that one time or another. It's just two fact-related things with regards to this. This change that Apple implemented finally, I think in iOS 14.3 probably, was something they announced back in June at WWDC, and they delayed the release of it. So we've known this has been coming. It is one of the reasons I wrote an article in praise of iOS 14 probably back in August, maybe September. And that was one of the features I called out as being one of the great things about this upgrade. The other one is that this feature, this kind of nutrition label, Google already does this, by the way, in the Play Store. They have a very similar interface. The thing that's more interesting to me about what Apple's doing, and I just don't know enough about this to know if they implemented this in iOS 14.3 yet or in 14. Whatever, is they're also going to do active blocking of apps that try to collect data. And that's the real thing I think that Facebook is afraid of, because a lot of people just click past the, are you sure you want to, blah, blah, blah. And I think, working in the background to stop this behavior on their platform is a very aggressive move by Apple and is at least in keeping with their privacy first, marketing or whatever. But yeah, the notion of Facebook.
Yeah, the whole.
Like, oh my God. It's like the My Bodyguard movie where it's like it's like we're the Goliath that can stand up to the other Goliath on behalf of the Davids is the most ludicrous assertion by a company that, my God, does anyone trust Facebook? Anyone? No, seriously. People trust Google. Just to put this in perspective, people do trust Google, right?
Yeah.
They really do. Whether they think they do or not. I mean, just the act of using Google Maps to get somewhere, you're trusting Google.
Mm-hmm.
Um, trusting Facebook? What? Oh
Yeah.
my God. This is one company. I try not to, well, I don't know. I have a huge opinion about this, obviously, but I mean, Facebook, I don't know that I can think of a rational reason why this company should be torn apart. I would give anything to see this company be torn apart. And I know that's horrible and maybe irrational, but I hate Facebook.
Yeah, so do I.
I hate it.
At least with Google, like, and I tend to agree with you. At least with Google, like, you get something that's useful, like Google Maps, regardless of the privacy implications. Like, at least it's helpful. like you can pull it up, be like, I can get to there, and like that's a physical thing.
Really, there is a nuanced view of Google. The problem is, yes, their underlying business model is advertising, and they've designed their cloud platforms and their web browser to collect user information on behalf of advertisers, and we should have a problem with that. There are ways around it on the web. You could just not use Chrome, and I've advocated that since, well, forever probably, but since last year certainly when I started using Edge full time. It's a little trickier on mobile, especially on Android, because it's Google's platform, et cetera, but you can't really eliminate everything Google related, but the list of things that they do, not just really well, but better than anyone else, is very long. And it's the bite your nose to spite your face scenario where it's like, well, I'm going to use DuckDuckGo, or I'm going to use something that Google doesn't own for maps, or I'm going to, it's like, okay, but I don't know. Like Google at least provides services that are useful and are really in many, not always, but in many cases are best in class.
Facebook is just worst.
But Facebook, you know what Facebook is? It's worse than McDonald's. I was going to say it's like McDonald's. I use this example a lot. When Ray Kroc or whoever the actual inventors of McDonald's came around, their goal was not to usurp our health and turn us all into obese, monsters from a sci-fi novel. They looked at the world and they were like, people need fast food because they're in cars and the world is changing, and we're going to meet this need. And it was a great business idea. Obviously, it survived and thrived. But you kind of flash forward to the future, and it's like, oh my God, McDonald's and things like McDonald's processed food are responsible for the health crisis that we now face. Facebook is just like that. It wasn't started to be horrible, but it literally has turned into a malicious monster serving advertisers to the detriment of its users. And this place where we go to share things with the people we care most about has turned into a funnel for hate speech and crazy partisan political nonsense and conspiracy theories and fake news and on and on. It's just
don't forget small business ads.
And small businesses, of course. Oh my God, I keep forgetting that huge service that they. What?
Yeah.
Facebook could disappear forever, and small businesses would not even notice. I shouldn't say it. That's not fair. I'm sure business occurs on Facebook, but I mean, there are so many avenues for this kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to call this. It is. I feel like I hate Facebook. I'm sorry. They're such a cancer. I just hate them.
The other thing we hate around here are delays.
Delays?
Well, I don't know about delay. I don't know if we hate them. That's a strong word. But anyways, Microsoft delayed the EA Play integration for Game Pass for PC.
So do you have an indication of what the trigger was for that?
I'm pretty sure it's technical. On the Xbox side, it was said to be pretty easy, at least from my understanding. That Microsoft owns the entire stack, right? They own the game platform, they own the console, they own the software, they own everything. On the PC, EA is like a different beast. So there's licensing and technical challenges, and I suspect that this is what it was, because they wouldn't have announced it for the PC if like the ink on the contract wasn't dry. Like they wouldn't have gone all out. So it's I'm fairly certain it's a technical challenge.
Yeah, it's definitely happening, of course. Okay, that makes sense. So, when that was supposed to happen
yesterday,
like this week? Yeah, okay. So on the day it was supposed to be released, they announced that they were delaying it.
Yeah, their blog post quite literally said, like, the first sentence is like, we intended this blog post to be a happy announcement. Like, that's like how it started. Yeah. But we have to delay it. So I would expect that to early. They did say in 2021, so it's not like a week's thing. So it's sometime early next year would be my guess. This thing will pop up.
Okay. So EA Play games are available on console.
Yes, on console, but not on desktop.
Gotcha. Okay. well, it's not the end of the world. Although, if you go to Twitter, it looks like it is.
Speaking of your favorite Hotmail hashtag, Gmail went down again. But
Yes.
Hotmail rose from the ashes like a phoenix.
Yeah. So in response to that, I closed my Gmail account. Now I'm going to do all correspondence via paper-based U.S. mail because obviously you can't trust the cloud. Am I the only one that celebrates when things like this go down? I don't mean celebrate, but it's like, I'm not bothered all day long by email from like advertisers and furniture stores and whatever nonsense. Walgreens emails me a lot for some reason, even though I'm not a customer. And
I
I don't
think
know.
the bigger issue was that their G Suite platform took a dump. And that for those companies that actually use that. Speaking of falling off a cliff, and Phoenix rising from the ashes, this thing came back to life. If you remember yesterday's poetic
switching away, how everything works. You can.
Well, I appreciate everybody who recommended that I go buy an M1 Mac after this thing crashed. I'm not even kidding. Like, people were all over Twitter, like, you should just go buy an M1. I'm like, yeah, because
Why
this
don't
thing.
You just this is like the very early 2000s. Walter Mossberg used to always be like, "Oh, just buy a Mac." Like that will solve your problems. With it, like glossing over the incredible switching costs, both real world costs and just the complexity of learning a new system. And I mean, seriously, like the grass is always greener, guys. Come on.
So what it ended up doing was it died. Like, I mean, it blew. I don't know if I blue screen on during the podcast, but it did right after when we were talking. Yep. And when I restarted it, it installed a system firmware update. So I don't know why that triggered the whole thing to just melt down right here on the podcast. But
sometimes when it's in that we need to reboot state, it really needs to reboot.
It's like a little toddler, just like, we gotta go.
The trigger, we'll do it for you. Just right into a little bit of memory we don't own, and we'll send this thing on its way.
Yeah. So anyway, so it appears to be working just fine after that little. It took a while to install that, and I did get a little nervous because it just sits on that Microsoft logo or like that Windows logo, whatever it is, for a long time, and I'm like, don't do this to me. And then,
related note, this little guy, I want to live so badly, my knuck.
Oh,
I took this thing completely apart.
Mm-hmm.
You actually, and I had to take pictures to make sure I put all the wires back where they go because they're jumpers and things, and pulled the motherboard out of this to look at the bottom. I didn't get it fixed. I got some interesting ideas from people, and I wanted just to thank everybody. It's possible that the problem is the switch, the power switch. The fact that like a light comes on at all on the motherboard is in many ways a good sign, but I couldn't. Mm-hmm. I literally dismantled this thing down to literally removed, it's like taking the beating heart out of a patient on the operating table, and that thing. And what I wasn't able to get it back up, but now I don't know. I think this might be beyond my powers, and I'm still wondering if I shouldn't just bring it somewhere and see if someone could just. There is one more thing. Unfortunately, I put it all back together. Like you can see, I actually, and it doesn't work just as well as it did before. So I guess it didn't screw anything up. But I take it apart again because one thing that at least two people recommended was, and based on some Intel, documentation, was you can remove. There's like a battery on the it's like
CMOS
a CMOS
battery.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those like things, right? Yeah. So I think I saw that it's like wrapped in something.
Mm-hmm.
I did not remove, and sometimes I guess removing that for some minutes or hours and then putting it back.
Yep.
So I will decide that. That'll be my last thing, but
that's kind of like the ultimate low level reset that you can get without actually having software access. So
yeah, I don't know. This Intel, like I said, is going to be coming out with some 11th gen based NUCs any day now, supposedly. There are actually third-party companies that make NUCs as well, by the way, and I've seen some out in the world that are Tiger Lake based. I really like this form factor. I wish this just worked. I know maybe I'm asking too much. I don't know.
Well, one thing you can check out that is worth asking about is Security Unlocked, a new podcast from our friends over at Microsoft. You can find links down in the description below or go to aka.ms/securityunlocked.
So, I guess we're done.
Save it for tomorrow.